Hello, everyone. It's kind of weird to be back. You know, we've got the very final race today of this season. It's an 80-minute race here at Misano for the Constructors Championship. Uh, so yeah, hello everyone, welcome. Just to get the formalities out of the way, if you want to see all the timings as we do, it's on pitwall.live. Links in the description if you want to get involved in the racing, or even some commentating as well. That's on the RWB Discord. But yeah, so here we are at Misano for the 80-minute race today. It's the season finale, and I guess we'll see how it goes. Later on, I should be joined by Rob, hopefully, if he gets back. But yeah, until then, I'm your host tonight, Josh. So yeah, thanks everyone for bearing with us. We've started 5 minutes early tonight for the race. Everyone kind of quite eager to get out on track. We've seen some proper great times so far in practice, with Radek Schuller nearly getting into the 1:33s. But yeah, so far Radek Schuller still P1 currently, with 10 minutes to go on the clock, with a 1:34.1. Everyone else seems to be sitting around the 35 mark, so I'm interested to see how Radek's managed to get 5 tenths ahead of the number 2 man of Jakob Tarantino in the number 16 car. But yeah, it's all going well so far. But yeah, it's I guess we'll kind of have to see what goes on today. Like I said, it's an 80-minute race, so it'll be interesting to see what kind of strategies people do. There are 2 mandatory pit stops tonight. There's no mandatory tyre change, but there is mandatory refueling. So some of the cars, like the Nissans, they can stretch it to the 80-minute mark on 1 tank. So it'll be interesting to see if they choose, if those endurance cars with the bigger tanks, lower fuel consumption, be able to see if they can actually stretch out all the way on 1 tank, only do 2 1-litre stops, or see if there are people out there who will go for the very early pit stop or late pit stop and change tyres to make it all the way to the end to try and keep that pace up. Especially as the tyres around on ACC tend to only really do about an hour. Some people can stretch them. You have people telling you that they can do 2 hours on a tyre, which is doable, but yeah, it's not great for your pace. So we'll see how it goes tonight. But yeah, again, hello to everyone out there. But yeah, we'll see how the standings go in a bit. It kind of seems like, Radek's kind of run away with it. I did have the standings from what's his name? From Damien, the race organizer. So I'll pull them up as well so we can have a look and see what's going on. But it's super close. Currently, Honda leading with 3,118 points, ahead of Porsche, who are sitting in P2 with 2,900. Between Porsche and Lexus, though, the fight is still on for that P2 position in terms of the Constructors Standings, with only 4 points between them. We then have McLaren and Mercedes fighting for that P4 position. It could still play out for Mercedes. They could still edge it and get that P position off McLaren, but I'm afraid for the guys, McLaren all the way down, getting into the top 3 is going to be a mighty challenge, especially if Lexus, Porsche and Honda are able to get any sort of points tonight. But another big thing for tonight as well is the fact that there's still penalty points as well being applied to this very final round. So I guess we'll have to see how it goes for those guys. But yeah, I guess we'll see how it goes up. For a recap from last week, we had Sebastian Astapol in the Aston Martin, who won the race as well as getting best lap, and also the highest average lap as well. He had the fastest average lap of a 2-minute 1, with his best lap being a 2-minute dead, so it was proper pace from him. But Radek Schuller and James Lacey in the Honda and the Porsche bringing those Constructors Standings all the way up, propelling those 2 teams into the championship fight at the very end. So it's still to play for these guys. Everything's not over yet, especially for the P1, P2, P3 position. As I was saying earlier, we've still got Mercedes and P5. They're battling it closely with Lamborghini and Bentley and Aston Martin behind. We then have Ferrari, BMW, Audi and Nissan bringing up the rear. Audi and Nissan still fighting out to try and not be the very last team in the Constructors Standings. There's about 200 points between them, so there's still time for those two to kind of battle it out and try and not get last place between those two. But yeah, everything's running well so far in terms of the actual race. It looks like it's going to be a heated one tonight, and I guess we'll have to try and find out who gets it. We do have Kai Banks and of course some new liveries. The reason I mentioned Kai Banks just then is because he's spotting a brand new livery for this new kind of season ender. Typically we normally see him in that nice black and green Monster Energy one. But yeah, he's now spotting his black and yellow one, so he's easy to spot on track. I've also had reports that the Lamborghini squad, some of them are running a gold livery today as well. Wondering, yeah, we can see Sergio Arlemke going through now, just find out Mercedes running that gold livery that Damien was kind of highlighting to us in the comms box earlier on. He's still repping it, and yeah, it seems like the whole squad is out there in their gold Lamborghinis. But yeah, unfortunately for them, I think the gold medal for the Constructors' Championship for the team overall is a bit out of the way for them, with 600 points between them and the current leading team of Honda. So yeah, how is everyone doing tonight? It's a bit lonely in the comms box for now, but as I said, we should have Rob later on. Kai Banks only 24 hundredths off Radek Schuller, so yeah, super close between those two, getting into the 33s, as well as Badalski and Emo Plate also just outside the 33s. Scratch that, my maths is wrong. He's just in the 33s with a 33.9 from Emo Plate in the number 71 McLaren. So yeah, it's good to see a whole mix of cars up there. We've still got the two Lexus or Lexi in P6, P7 currently, but there's still 4.5 minutes left in qualifying. So there's still plenty of time. But yeah, lots of familiar faces on here. Luckily, there's not too many reserve drivers having to take places tonight. For BMW, it looks like one of those guys, Nico Perez, is having some technical difficulties at home, highlighting that real-world problems and sim failures can occur. So that's why he's not currently with us in the race today, and he's been replaced by Eddie Warden. But yeah, joining me is Rob, so he can alleviate me from rambling on for a bit.
Good evening. How are we?
Oh, we're doing well. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good, thank you. I've actually managed to get the initial draft of my final master's research project finished, so yeah, I'll take that.
So a win for you, as well as a win, hopefully, for the Honda or the Porsche tonight.
Yeah, it was a very interesting last couple of rounds, actually, here in the Constructors' Championship, as we watch Lemke going a little bit wide in the Lamborghini there. He looks as if he stayed within track limits, though, so I don't think his lap time will be invalidated. We go on board with the Lamborghini driver now on the fastest part of the circuit, and coming up to one of the hardest braking zones, I think, in the entire Assetto Corsa Competizione game. Very, very easy to run wide on that particular part of track there, coming through the penultimate corner now. And he decides to come into the pits. Of course, Misano, back in the day, it used to be the other way around. So what was the final corner actually used to be turn one. It wasn't usually that tight either. They've tightened it since they redeveloped it to get the MotoGP round back. But yes, it's a very... It's quite a technical circuit. There's not too many fast corners. There's a lot of emphasis on braking and traction. So I think Porsche could do quite well here, given the inherent advantages of having the weight of an engine over the rear wheels, the driven wheels in a GT3 car.
Oh yeah, 100%. Especially as it's looking in the forecast to be dry, so there's not going to be too many pendulum moments for the Porsches. But yeah, the braking points around here, you've got two corners where you're braking into a heavy braking zone while going around the corner from a high speed. You've got turn, let me get this right. You've got turn 9 into Tramonto at turn 10. You've also got what we just saw there going into Caro. So it's properly difficult around turn 13 and turn 9, trying to brake while turn into a heavier braking zone. So you really have to know the track quite well to be able to nail it.
And it's also, but then conversely, Misano is also a circuit where you need a car which is really compliant over the curbs, as well. As the best way to get a quick lap time is to just get as close as you possibly can or even dare to a track limits penalty effectively, as you really do have to run it as wide as possible because of the inherent nature of the circuit. We're currently looking at the 102 BMW right now of Eddie Warden as he comes through the last few corners here, coming up to the final turn now. It's a third gear, if I remember correctly, corner, and then full throttle down the pit straight here.
We'll be able to get the basic HUD up so we can actually see what gear he's using, his throttle and brake inputs, as well as you can see the steering on the left.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is a tough one because there's so much runoff area as well that's actually tarmac, and you do have some super policemen to try and deter you from doing that. But to get the time advantage around here, you have to run over those sleeping policemen on the inside as well as the outside. So it's very easy to kind of get track limits around here. Is a lot of the people, like we're talking Martin Schaefer, Radek, Kai Banks, when you look at their onboards, they're literally half the car is over the red and white on the inside, and basically straddling the curbs on the inside because they're not raised, they're just kind of there. So it's it's an interesting one for them in terms of track limits, and it could be a tough one.
Yeah, and that's also the reason why they're drivers, and I really am not a racing driver, to put it mildly. Because there's a wee moment there for Eddie Warden on the brakes, coming up to the final couple of corners now. Just a slight lift to about half throttle there for the penultimate corner. Braking down to second gear, make the most of the torque from the BMW and full throttle across the line. Does he improve his time? He stays in 19th place at the end of qualifying here at Misano.
Yeah, it's to be perfectly honest though, given the long race that's ahead of us, that there's a lot of time for people who don't have the qualifying that they wanted. But interestingly enough, Martin Schaefer managed to pip Radek Schüller by 69 thousandths of a second to get P1. So Radek Schüller will be starting alongside him, and that could be quite zesty with the torque and the grunt of the Bentley against the VTEC per and the mid-engined Honda NSX alongside him.
And also, you got third, fourth, and fifth place Mercedes, Lexus, Nissan, all front-engine cars as well, for good measure. So it's going to be an interesting race. I don't think. Oh, it's almost too hard to call, because admittedly I have seen Martin Schaefer racing in another league on another Discord server, and he is genuinely fast as well. So this is going to be quite interesting. 1 hour, 25-minute race here at Misano. Ironically, actually, this is longer than the actual Blancpain Sprint Series race or GT World Challenge Europe or whatever it's called this week in real life. And also, the real life race, crucially, is also run at night time as well, under the floodlights here at Misano.
Yeah, nighttime just brings a whole new dynamic into it, doesn't it? Because you can't really see apexes too much. I mean, just look at the guys going around Spa or even Nürburgring 24. Like, Nürburgring 24 is just absolutely mental to watch.
Oh, it was like last year they briefly had an onboard with Kelvin van der Linde's Audi, and I was in the Radio Le Mans production studio at the time watching it, and in the night, in the fog, in the torrential rain, and you actually just wonder how. And okay, admittedly, this was about 5 or so minutes before the race actually got red flagged, due to the inevitable. Quite frankly, the weather was absolutely abysmal at that stage, and is just watching it thinking, okay, yeah, this is why these drivers get paid as much as they do in real life.
Yeah, I mean, I was quite happy that it got red flags. It meant I could go to sleep and not miss anything, and then still come back the next day and watch it all. But yeah, I was quite happy with all that.
That may have also caused. Well, that was actually quite an interesting moment, as I think quite a few of us got a good night's sleep we genuinely weren't expecting to have. Because I was actually penciled in for the overnight production. So, yeah, that was not what I was expecting, as the cars are rolling towards the final corner. We're currently on board with Eddie Warden. Now we're looking at the number 69 Lexus, currently 4th place on the grid.
And that's green flag, and away they go, down towards turn 1, as I said, following Don Jordan, hoping to... Oh, look at that cinematic camera. There's already a Ferrari off sideways at the apex into turn 1, but everyone else seems to be getting through fine. We'll see in a second who's the winner and loser out of that. But there's still plenty of time for them to get back up front. Here they go now into turn 4 at Rio, getting the nice right-hander, everyone kind of still going side by side. We've got another yellow flag at turn 3. And yeah, here we go, through turn 6, along this kind of straight. I don't know why this is called turn 7, this straight, but it is.
I think that might be to do with the MotoGP.
Fair enough.
It's not. It might not be a corner in a car, but trust me, when you're on 2 wheels and you don't have the quite have as much contact patch from your tyre onto the circuit like you have with a big GT3 car. What might not feel like a corner is very much a corner on a motorbike.
Oh. Luckily none of the MotoGP guys have had that spin at turn 10 at Tramonto that we just saw in the background there from the Lamborghini. But yeah, everyone's still going on as if nothing happened. We see the Porsche squeeze into the inside and unfortunately losing out from the Lexus.
There's a little bit of contact there, and the Porsche very wisely parking on the apex to wait for a gap there, because that could have been an incredibly dangerous rejoin from the Porsche. They're currently looking at Maddow, 17th place in the Honda NSX GT3, coming down towards the Variante del Parco, the first corner complex, and there's contact with the Nissan GTR of
Higham.
Higham. Yep, still haven't figured out how to pronounce his name, unfortunately. Could be Higham, could be Higham. There's a Lexus stopped in the middle of the track there as well. Is that...
I guess we'll find out in a second when the timing screen updates, but yeah, that could be Kopsa.
I think that was Kopsa, because he has lost quite a few positions. There's a Lamborghini number. I'm just trying to see if I can make out that number on my screen. Is that 6? 16. Yes, that is the 16 Lamborghini there. Currently putting the pressure on Mad Out for 16th place. We're currently looking at Marco Badowski in the highest placed Nissan GTR, car number 45, currently in 5th place overall as they head into the Curva del Caro. Just a couple of corners from the end of the lap. And coming up now towards the Curva Misano, the final corner. Used to be turn 1 back in the day when Misano was an anti-clockwise circuit, but when they redeveloped it for the MotoGP, they also reversed the direction of it. Coming up now into the Variante del Parco. And Badowski currently has the number 911 Porsche of Kreuz, I think, behind him. Currently heading through the Curva del Rio as we speak. And onto, well, I guess the back straights here. And on the run now down to Curva Quesia. Nothing, there's no attempted overtake. It did look for a minute like there was going to be a bit of a battle going on ahead, and Kreuz gets trying to go around the outside, maybe get the undercut on from out of Tremonto onto the back straight here. We've got Emo Clay and James Lacey just behind them in the McLaren and Porsche respectively.
Yeah, no such luck for Kreuz trying to get the undercut there, and I don't think the Porsche is going to win out against the grunt of the GTR in a straight line. Unfortunately for him, that thing has a hulking twin-turbo V8, so nothing's
V6.
really going to get past. Oh, sorry, V6. So not much is going to get past that.
Yeah, it's the GTR not quite as nimble in the corners as the Porsche, you could say. But on the straights, it does make up for that in quite a big way, as Badowski almost thinks about having a little look at the 69 Lexus there, and indeed is trying to go the long way round. But does that open the door for Kreuz in the Porsche? Coming up to the braking zone now for the Curva del Rio, and it does open the door. Kreuz has gone past Badowski for 5th place.
That was a great move by Kreuz, spotting that gap and going for it. Jordan did very well to cover them both off though, and create that opportunity for Kreuz to go through.
As behind them, James Lacey and Crawford Brown are battling for position, and so to be fair, so's Kruger and the McLaren behind them.
Unfortunately, Lacey's squeezing across Brown's nose with Brown nowhere to go, and unfortunately Lacey goes off there in the Porsche, just in between turn 8 and turn 9. But yeah, that's unfortunate for Lacey, who's lost out on that one.
In what is proving to be quite a frenetic race so far here at Misano, and well, that might be a little bit of an understatement. We're currently looking at Magnus Dahlgren in the 89 Ferrari, currently in 18th place. Around the back of the circuit is a Lamborghini in front. He runs maybe a little bit wide, but gets the position on Kopsa, moves up into 17th place, and I think he may have passed Mad Al as well. I'll have to have a look. No, Mad Al's definitely in front of them still. There's a Lexus in between, which is indeed Kopsa. I'm sorry, that currently looking from the back of Mad Al's Honda NSX, currently 16th place overall here with 1 hour and 18 minutes to go.
Yeah, unfortunately for us, just to create some more confusion, we've got 2 Showbloms and 2 Copses now racing, so that's just to add to our confusion when we're looking at the timing screen. So we've got Rock Cops in P8 and the number 23 Lexus, but then we also have Edo Cops in the number 999 Lexus behind Mad Al right now, who's trying to defend from Magnus Dahlgren and the BMW of Turbovsek behind as well. So properly brutal for these guys, for Kopse especially, but Mad Al handling the pressure very well and just keeping his line and staying very composed.
Yeah, it's a good drive from Mad Al so far. Currently still in 16th place, coming out of Tremonto onto the other long straight here at Misano, except it really isn't. There's a couple of kinks there and into what is a proper corner, and then on the brakes now for the Curva del Caro, coming out of there to get a good exit into the penultimate corner and coming up to the curve of Misano.
To answer Martin Peters' question quickly, is Seb racing right now for the AMR team? I don't think so, but by the looks of it, there may have been some spinners in Sebastian Vettel style, as we see the Lamborghini going very sideways there through turn 2, but holds on to the position. Oh, sorry, that's Mad Al.
I think there may have been a little bit of contact there, actually, from the Lexus, potentially. As Mad Al runs a little bit wide, the Lexus of Kopscher goes through. He's got the inside line here to defend from Dahlgren, and this in turn has led to Tribeck and in the Bentley and also on the BMWs, the number 9 car. Unfortunately, I can't quite make out who that is.
What a send.
And it's all well and truly broken out here. I think the BMW's got ahead of everyone.
Made an absolute massive committed send, late break into turn 8 and just went by 2-3 cars in one corner. So what an absolute chad of a braking zone for him. But yeah, kudos to him for making it stick. Mad Al, I'm wondering, is he staying out of the way and going for the long game, as it is 1 hour and 15 minutes left on the clock? So yeah, very interesting to see if Mad Al's playing the long game and just keeping his nose clean, trying to reduce as much damage as he can from any contact, or staying out of any contact he can, so that he can make it to the end.
And also, when you're making a dive for position like that, you are also relying on the driver of the car you're overtaking to be somewhat cooperative, unlike what we saw at the weekend at another Italian circuit in a certain high-profile open-wheel series.
Yeah, I've got my opinion about that, and I've already had many rants on Twitter about that. So it's out there if anyone wants to know my opinion. But yeah,
I haven't actually seen it because, well, I don't have Sky, and the sound was out of sync with the pictures on the highlights, and I didn't watch it. There's debug, and there's contact there with the Porsche.
Yeah, it looks like number 15 of Barnett.
Barnett, yes, and Barnett has lost a fair bit of ground there. He's still comfortably ahead of Wilt. We're currently back on looking at Magnus Dahlgren in the Ferrari, putting up a very stout defence from Tribeck and Gomez and Shepherd, and then behind them is Sjöblom and Shirley. There's 3 Ferraris between 19th and 24th in that little group of 6 cars. So could we potentially be seeing some team orders maybe from the Ferrari camp here?
Oh, beam me up, Scotty. Yeah, it looks like there's a small technical issue for Shepherd there, unfortunately. Hopefully nothing too serious so he can come back. But yeah, that's unfortunate. Shepherd's a great racer and he's great fun to race against, but hopefully he can come back on and still have some good battles with people. Yeah,
hope so. Currently looking back at Mad Out, currently in 18th in the NSX. Coming out now towards the Curva Quesia, I think it's pronounced. I'm not 100% sure of the pronunciation, as Dahlgren goes past on the brakes there. For the corner, he's now got Simon Tribeck behind him, currently looking on board towards the rear of Magnus Dahlgren's Ferrari, car number 89. Currently in 17th place, because we're just waiting on the timing screen to update at the moment. Now looking at Trebek in the red, white and blue Bentley. Arguably the second most patriotic livery you could run on a Bentley outside of British Racing Green, but coming now out of Curva del Carro towards the Curva Misano, the final corner here. Currently looking at the number 69 Lexus in 4th place at the moment. There's Kreuss directly behind him, and Badowski's right with them as well in the GTR. Coming onto the back straight now. This is where the Lexus should have the legs on the Porsche, you'd think.
Of course, we get right back into the Porsche's strong points of having all that rear traction so he can launch out the corners. You can already see him slowly catching up and getting a lot closer through the corners. But yeah, then it'll be back to Lexus home ground, the perfect territory for it, as well as the Nissan back onto the straight. So that, you know, hopefully Jordan can pull away.
Realistically, you'd have to say the first sector here at Misano is the one which you'd think would suit the Porsche consistently better than the other two sectors on the circuit, just because of the amount of corners and the amount of traction you need. Coming on board with Kreuss as he gets quite close to the Lexus on the brakes for Curva del Carro, and through the unnamed kink there into the Curva Misano. It's nowhere near as sharp. Well, it used to be a lot more open corner back in the day.
Ooh, it looks like someone's already got track limits with a drive-through for Nayonin in the number 92 Nissan. Unfortunate for him, but we did call it.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but also it's just, I guess, part of the inherent nature of this circuit is the only way you can get a properly quick time round here is if you're absolutely on the edge regarding being within track limits and getting pinged for it by race control and by the stewards. And it's such an easy thing to do here at Misano as well. So yeah, like you said, it's unfortunate, but I don't think it's going to be the first track limits penalty we're seeing here this evening. I think there's going to be a fair few more, and who knows, it could even decide potentially the race and even the championship maybe as well.
100%. It's super close between the constructors. Radek's kind of run away slightly with it. With the drivers' championships, he's absolutely dominated. He's absolutely dominated. With 1,265 points. So yeah, he is a bit of an alien.
Yeah, I mean, it's Radek. We weren't really, with all due respect to everyone else, we weren't really expecting too many drivers to be near to him, and he has been consistently fast no matter what the circuit. So fair dues to him, but it's still very open at the moment. I mean, granted, it's still early days here at Misano, currently on board with Badowski in the Nissan. And this is also, I think, the Evo version of the Nissan as well. I can tell by the shape of the steering wheel as the Lexus runs a bit wide. Badowski really having to check up to avoid completely slamming into the back of Kreuss's Porsche. And that in turn brings Kopse into it as well in the Lexus.
Yeah, that's absolutely opened him up, and Kopse looks down the inside but doesn't quite stick it right where he should alongside Badowski into that corner. But yeah, it looks like Badowski had no intention of giving way through with the racing line through that corner. So it's a good thing Kopse didn't stick it in, otherwise it could have been quite a nasty incident for both of them.
Yeah, I mean, it was fair driving from, well, Kreuss and Badowski and Kopse, to be fair, because Jordan had made a slight mistake in the Lexus. Kreuss had to check up to avoid it, and Badowski had to check up to avoid the pair of them. And then Kopse almost had to check up to avoid the three of them, for good measure.
Yeah, it's that lovely concertina effect that you expect to see lap 1, turn 1, but you don't really see anywhere else. But yeah, when a driver unexpectedly slows down, everything kind of scrunches back up, and that's why we've now got this 5-car train going on right now with everyone trying to get a piece of Jordan.
Yeah. Piece of Jordan, Kroy, Spadovsky, Kopsa, and Kreuger as well. So, yeah, it's going to be quite interesting. There's a broad variety of cars. There's actually 2 Lexuses here, so I wonder if maybe the 2 Lexus drivers, Kopsa and Jordan, could potentially be playing kind of more of a team game here. We're currently on board with Nate Newcomer in the number 97 Lexus, currently in 18th place. Now we're on board with one of the BMWs, car number 9, and there's a spin there for the Ferrari in the background. That's Shirley. He's gone off there. The Lamborghini he was with, which I think may well have been, I'm guessing, Lemka, because he's the only Lamborghini in the vicinity.
Yep.
Has checked up there, but yeah, that's really unfortunate for Shirley. The Ferrari challenge here in their home country is somewhat fading. I think there's another Lamborghini has gone off in the background there, I think, to maybe redress the position. So that could have been Lemka. It could have been, not 100% sure. We're currently looking at Mad Owl in the Honda NSX. He's got Simon Truett behind him in the Bentley. Coming onto the brakes now for Curverdale Caro.
Also just catching the overtake from Dahlgren on Mr. Juski as well, so that's a juicy position for Dahlgren to get up one more place into P14 from Dominic. But yeah, very brave of him to do it there at turn 12, turn 13, and get the move done by the time they go around that hairpin at Caro.
Yeah, Trebek looking as if he might have a go into turn 1, decides against it, stays in the slipstream of Al. We've got Hugo Gomez in the pits, I think, in the Audi. He's got a little P next to his time, and he is falling quite rapidly down the order, so we'll keep an eye on that. The pit window's not open, so...
There's no pit window today. Due to it being 2 mandatory stops, no pit windows, so wondering if he's getting it out of the way now so he can go out and do some hot laps by himself. Maybe he's found that perfect gap. You can see him starting to move along now on the track map, that number 14 of the grey circle along the straight. So maybe he's spotted a gap that no one else has, and he's going for that massive bit of free air to try and get the undercuts. But yeah, it's all to play for him.
And also, with the Misano circuit, the pit lane exit actually skips the chicane at turns 1 and 2. And then, although I think knowing this, they've actually... I can't remember where the pit lane exit line is, but I think it's done in a way to try and maybe kind of reduce the impacts of going through the pit lane and cutting the chicane out somewhat. Currently on board with the number 16 Lamborghini of Tarantino, I think that is.
Yep, Tarantino.
He's got Kopsa right behind him for company. Kopsa taking quite a tight line through turn 2 and turn 3 as well, as he looks to try and send it up the inside. And is he going to get it done into Curva del Rio? He has. In the 999 Lexus, that means Kopsa is now up into 12th place.
Beautiful move. Set it up really well going around turn 3 and just had him before he even got into turn 4. Absolutely beautifully set up.
Yeah. Also, the Lexus is a very compliant car over the curbs as well. Currently looking at Magnus Dahlgren in the Ferrari. He's got the 79 Aston Martin behind him. Battle for 14th place here as they're coming up to Tremonto. Very tricky braking zone for that corner, because you brake, you turn, you have to kind of almost trail brake slightly rather, and then get back on the brakes as hard as possible for that corner. It's very easy to make a mistake there.
Yeah, it properly is. It's a brutal braking zone, that. But yeah, everyone seems to be nailing it. It kind of reminds me of Paul Ricard somewhat, in terms of the amount of freedom they have to go off track and get those track limits if they want to, or if they don't want to as well. But yeah, it is brutal for these guys, trying to maximize their time, maximize their pace whilst not getting them. But you can just see how much they run over those curbs, trying to maximize the amount of pace they have.
And also, at least here, compared to Paul Ricard, you do have braking markers which are actually within the nearby vicinity of the actual circuit.
Very true. But yeah.
Currently looking at Dan Jordan in the 69 Lexus. He's got Croyce right behind him, and arguably on a section of circuit where you'd expect Lexus to pull away a little bit from the Porsche. And which he, I think, is doing on the brakes now. Porsche misses the apex ever so slightly, runs wide and tries to keep it tight, but the Lexus still in front. Coming into the penultimate corner now, and coming up to the curve at Misano. Good exit from here. It's maybe a little bit too fast, that corner, to play to the advantage of the Porsche, although saying that, Croyce is making me look like a little bit of an idiot and goes past around the outside of turn 1 and then has the inside for turn 2 and makes it stick. For 4th place here is Dan Jordan. Going to have a little look back past. No, he's not. He's got Badowski in the GTR. Another similar concept to car, actually. Front engine, rear wheel drive, big old engine at the front. Really able to hammer the curbs quite hard in both of those cars. But Badowski is currently the Nissan GTR meat in between two pieces of Lexus bread. Although saying that, I think it's getting quite close between Croyce and Jordan. Croyce still just about has it, as Badowski, has he got past? Has he got a better run out to the corner compared to Dan Jordan? We shall see. He is still right behind Jordan. He's barely clinging on to 5th place here as they come through the kink into the Curva del Carro. The Lexus is still in front, but there is really not much separating both of the Lexi and the Nissan GTR of Badowski. Coming into the curve of Misano now, and get a good exit. Jordan seemingly gets a slightly better exit than Badowski, and they're coming through the first chicane here now, and it's still nose to tail for 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th. Currently looking at Daniel Barnett in the number 15 Porsche, currently well down the field in 26th. Martin Shirley into the pits, currently 33rd overall, as Barnett has Damien Wilk for company in the Lamborghini car number 20. They've got Hutchinson in front of them in one of the Aston Martins, and then Xavier Eugenie is a little bit further up the road in the BMW M6.
Oh, I can't wait for that M4 GT3 car to be released for everyone to play about in. But I have a feeling that everyone's going to be jumping into BMW cars very, very soon when that DLC drops for everyone to play about in. But yeah, until then, we've got the big Lumberson M6, which, yeah, it's quite interesting how everyone's avoiding the M6 for a while. But all they talk about is the M4.
I mean, you say that. I think the M4, from what I was reading on Twitter earlier, is actually slightly longer than what the M6 is, and even the M8 GTE, subject of all those memes when it was racing in the FIA World Endurance Championship as well. I think the M4 is actually ever so slightly longer than what the M6 and the M8 are.
Ooh. I think everyone just wants that massive grille to eat up all their competition, don't they?
Yeah, it's quite interesting. I think the way BMW have gone about the grille on the car is that I think what they've done is they've actually prioritized the race version of the car over the road version. So if they're thinking, okay, well, if we can put this piece of ducting here, this piece of ducting here, and have multiple ways of channeling air, different parts of, say, the engine, the brake ducts, and all that, then I think they could have actually pulled off quite the masterstroke here.
I just reckon that the guy who was designing the new grille got halfway along. He was like, I'm going to keep it nice and traditional, got halfway and then sneezed and accidentally slipped his hand down. I was like, oh, fuck it. You know, that's the new grille. Just, I can't be asked getting the rubber out. Just keep it.
And I think, if I remember correctly, Turner Motorsport are actually going to be running the new M4 GT3 at the Rolex 24 next year in real life in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. We're currently looking at the 79 Aston Martin, currently battling for 14th with Dahlgren in the Ferrari. I'm going to have to actually at this rate ask, I think, everyone for a guide on how to pronounce their name ahead of the upcoming 12 hours. And speaking of upcoming races, here with RWB, we have the big grid race coming up at Suzuka. I think we have well over 70 cars entered at the moment.
Yeah, last I saw it was 79 cars with plenty of space for more folk as well.
Sorry to interrupt you there. Dahlgren,
go for
I think, has actually gone into the pits there in the Ferrari. Yes, he has. So has Kreuss in the Porsche. Kreuss, I think, should still rejoin well within the top 20. Indeed, he is. He's currently at 15th place behind Mad Al. It's quite an early stop there from the Porsche driver, currently on board with Kai Banks in the Mercedes. But yeah, sorry to butt in there.
No, racing comes before anything else.
Yeah, it's going to be quite the interesting race, actually. Like you said, 79 cars around a circuit as narrow as Suzuka. It's going to be, well, from what I've read about the previous big grid races, I think it's going to be quite interesting in terms of traffic management, as you've going to have quite a large gulf of class. And I mean that with the utmost respect to everyone who's taking part, between the fast drivers, the properly fast drivers, and the aliens.
Oh, 100%. But not only that, there is actual difference in classes as well. You've got GT4 cars. You've also got the Porsche Cup cars as well. I think there's 2 or 3 of them registered. Because why not? And I think someone's even thought about taking the Lamborghini Gallardo as well, which is renowned for being absolute dog shit when it comes to corners.
So what you're saying is we've got 3 masochists in a Porsche Cup car and 1 utter sadist in one of the Reiter Lamborghini Gallardos.
Oh yeah, whoever's saying the Reiter is an absolute loony.
Yes, would you like to... How slow do you want to go around corners? Yes.
No, but how slow? Yes.
That is basically the only way to sum up the Reiter Gallardo. I mean, with all due respect to Reiter, because they're a class operation, but God above, that thing was long in the tooth.
Yeah, it's kind of like, oh, what does a race car have? Coilovers? Nah, you know what? We're not going to do coilovers or proper suspension. We're going to put leaf springs in this thing and see if it works. World first. No one's ever thought of it before. It's an absolute game changer. Trust me.
It does make you wonder why Lamborghini decided to bring everything in-house and start up Squadra Corsa in the first place.
It really does, doesn't
especially
it?
knowing that the Huracan was on its way. Yeah, I wonder why. It's currently looking at Eddie Warden as he gets overtaken by Crawford Brown in the NSX, coming out of the Curvedale Carrow. There, that is the battle for 8th place. Brown has moved up into 8th. Warden 9th. They've got Emo Plate for company as well in the McLaren, which is, well, I think quite a lot of the GT3 cars, quite heavily detuned, to put it mildly.
100%.
I mean,
the thing is, though, I know Crawford Brown and Eddie Warden. I know those two quite well, and I drive with them quite a lot. And right now, they're in their own little Discord channel together, So I guarantee that Crawford right now is laughing his head off that he got past Eddie and is dropping him right now, leaving him in the drawers of MO plate.
Oh. I mean, it's probably a good job we can't really hear any of the internal Discord conversations due to possible unbroadcastable language, but
100%.
that would probably require a separate audio producer. I wonder who works in the audio in the broadcast industry.
Got Martin Pater in the chat saying Ferrari and Aston Martin are in the same team. I guess they won't do anything stupid to each other. You'd say that and you'd think that, but gloves are off. It is the finale. They are going to go full send for that driver championship.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, there's still 51 minutes left to go. It's still a long race. Everyone's still, I think, biding their time somewhat, given that the longest race we've had all season thus far was about 45 minutes. And we're here today having a 1 hour 20, 1 hour 25 minute race at Misano. So, yeah, there is going to be an extra element of strategy to it, but...
I've just noticed something very, very strange. There's a pit window open currently for 18 minutes. Now, I'm pretty sure that the FIA have set it so, well, told drivers that there wouldn't be a pit window. So I'm wondering if someone's missed the setting in the server settings. But this could be interesting. You see tons of drivers diving into the pits having noticed this, which means that if they can complete their 2 pits now and no one else does, everyone else is going to be getting a lot of penalties. We can see Mad Al's gone for his 2nd pit stop right now. I wonder if he's him being I think he's one of the stewards as well, the head steward. So I'm wondering if he's slipped this in to try and get a head start. I'm not. Don't worry, Mad Al. I'm not actually saying that this is what's happened. I think someone's just missed out a setting, but yeah, it's very interesting that this has happened.
I mean, we're not insinuating anything untoward in the slightest here. We're just saying that someone may have misclicked a setting pre-race, and it may or may not be the case that we could well potentially have, as Kai Banks has also come into the pits from 3rd place, so as Kopsa in the 23, but this could be a case of, yeah, there's not going to be a pit window, and then all of a sudden, very quietly, there is a pit window added, just to try and keep the drivers and the team managers on their toes somewhat.
Oh, of course, like, Damien meant this on purpose. He's planned it all. He's just trying to see who's staying awake. Just for when Crawford Brown watches this back, Crawford Brown has set the fastest time of the race so far with if I can find him, he has done a 1 minute 34.2. So well done, Crawford. I give you a clap. You finally got the race best so far.
And, well, given that my personal best in hot lap mode is 37, if I remember correctly, yeah, says pretty much all you need to know. There's a whole plethora of cars in the pits. Trebek, you got Kreuzer in for his 2nd stop, I believe. You got Eugenie in the pits. You got Hutchinson in the pits as well. Mad Owl's pitting again. So's the car just behind him. The I want to say 97. I'm not 100% sure. I can't quite make that out on my screen, unfortunately.
But it is interesting that there is a pit window currently up there, so I really don't think that was meant to be put in. But yeah, we'll see how it goes and see what happens in terms of people doing their 2nd pits within the 14 minutes left in the pit window.
Yeah, as Crawford Brown goes up the inside of Dan Jordan there for 4th place as well through the first chicane. Crawford Brown.
That was me very subtly trying to tell Crawford that he does have a pit window open right now, while hopping into his Discord very quickly to tell him and Eddie that there is a pit window. But yeah, we'll see how it goes for everyone, and I wonder what happened if people don't take their pits now during the pit window, and if they'll keep on going, and people at the end will be like, look, don't worry about any time penalties that the game gives you. Just relax. We'll take off the time penalties and work out the results afterwards. But yeah, it's an oversight, and it does happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, all we can do is enjoy the racing, but still going on track between Copsey and it looks like Dahlgren right behind him in that pink and yellow Ferrari. So I guess we'll find out when they go across the timing line.
Yeah, Trebek is still listed as being in 17th. Currently looking at Copser. Does he dive into the pits? No, he doesn't. The Ferrari doesn't. The Bentley, there's quite a large gap. I think the Bentley, yes, Trebek has actually come into the pits there. So we'll just wait for timing to update.
Or it could be a car on a different lap.
I think it might well actually be a car. Yes, I think he might well be right. There doesn't appear to be any Ferraris up ahead, so I think this could well be the Ferrari being a lap behind Copson, wanting to try and get his lap back.
Thing is, with all these crazy pit windows going on and everyone pitting all over the place, the track has become an absolute clutter of people on. Some people are 2 laps down, some people are on one lap, some people are still on the leading lap. But yeah, we see Eddie Warden, Marko Badowski, Crawford Brown, and Don Jordan, Trebek, Kraus, Tobovsek, tons of people still diving into the pits, hoping to avoid that time penalty. But I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's almost like watching an inter-race at Lime Rock Park. In all honesty, where given it's like a 50-second lap or so, like a pit stop can take up about 2 laps, or like watching a NASCAR Cup Series race at Bristol or on one of the other short tracks. It's just like a pit stop can cost you quite a few laps, given just how short the circuit is. Misano is, if I remember correctly, it is one of the shorter circuits the GT World Challenge races at in real life, so it could well be that given the relative length of the circuit and the relative lap times, that coming into the pits could well cost you almost an entire lap once you've factored in refueling and tyre changes and that. And it's interesting if some of the drivers do pit in very quick succession in the pit window, that second pit stop will be a lot shorter as well, because you only have to put about 2, 3, 4 laps worth of fuel in just to brim the tank effectively.
Yeah, 100%. But luckily, I have managed to find. As I say that, people dive back into the pits again. That was a battle between Marko Badowski and Emily Plate, but you can just see the amount of cars diving back into the pits. You can see that Lexus behind as well. That might be Don Jordan taking a very late break into the pit entry, trying to maximise as much time as he can. Well, minimise as much time as he can spent into the pits. So, luckily, we've not seen any stop-go 30s or stop-go 10s for speeding in the pit lane yet.
Yeah, I think the word "yet" is doing quite a lot of the heavy lifting there, with all honesty.
Oh, 100%.
Don't worry, give it till the end of the pit window. We might see a couple starting to pop up. Currently looking at Nate Newcomber in the number 97 Lexus, currently 15th place. He's got Xavier Eugeni just behind him in the BMW M6 GT3. They come in towards the Curve del Caro. Good measure.
Yeah, this has thrown everything all over the place. But yeah, luckily we still have this battle between Newcomer and Xavier Eugeni for position. It looks like Newcomer may have dropped Xavier, but it looks like Billy Hutchinson maybe slowly closing up to Xavier. I guess we'll see in any second now. There we go. On the timing screens, that gap is slowly coming down, but yeah, for now, Xavier is safe and he can keep up the pace that he's doing.
Yeah, it's currently looking at Jordan in number 69 in the Lexus, currently 11th place at the moment. He's got MO plate right in front of him. He's got one of the... Mercedes behind him. I think the car behind him actually on track is the Nissan. I think the Mercedes and the Ferrari between them are cars which have already pitted. The Mercedes looking very racy indeed, actually, almost wanting to try and actually get a lap back on the Lexus. We'll have to wait and see. We've got more cars diving into the pit lane as the pit window is still open as they come through the curve of Misano to end yet another lap. We've got just under 42 minutes to go. The Mercedes is either trying to warm the tyres up or just trying to find some form of gap somewhere, anywhere, to try and get past the Lexus. Come out the first handful of corners here. Into
The thing is, Jordan doesn't have a blue flag. Like, there's no marshals waving blue flags at him, so it is a car that is a lap down. But it looks like it's a car that's got a bit more pace than Jordan currently. So if he wants that place back, he's going to have to fight for it. But it looks like, it looks like Jordan has no intention of giving that place back and losing any time to MI Plate ahead of him.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. Unless this is the reason why the pit window may have been introduced, just to make people think they had to get their pit stops in quite quickly mid-race. We've got yellow flags somewhere on the circuit. Yellow flags gone back to green. Couldn't quite catch who that was, unfortunately, but it looks as if the pit window might... Could the pit window have been brought in to try and actually mix up the field somewhat? So you
I highly doubt. I highly doubt that. I'm 99.99% sure that it's a setting that they forgot to turn off from last week. But yeah, if not, fair play, Damien, because you're giving us quite the headache for it.
I mean, nothing's going to top Sebring 12 hours 2012 in that regard.
Oh no! Like,
I mean, back when you had effectively 12 races going on at the same time over 12 hours, you had the 5 American Le Mans Series classes, the 4 World Endurance Championship classes, the overall World Endurance Championship race, the overall American Le Mans Series race, and the overall Sebring 12 hours overall.
Yeah, definitely not confusing whatsoever with that.
Yeah, there's a reason why whenever anyone mentions it at work, everyone just shudders, especially those who are actually working on that race.
Well, luckily for the commentators, they can have their own version with the 8 hour of Sebring coming up in RWB. That's happening. Let's see if I can remember. It's the 9th of October. So that's 3 weeks away. I'm going to have like a week of practice for that. As I have to go grab my wheel from Scotland and then drive all the way back.
Oh dear. That's a long old trip. There's an Aston Martin, very squirrely moment there. We're currently looking at the number 70 McLaren. As one of the Aston Martins up ahead has had a bit of a moment on the grass, and the McLaren has unfortunately been spun by one of the other cars. There's a Porsche going way wide there. Still got yellow flags, so okay, we're back to green now. Currently looking at from the rear of Kai Banks's Monster Energy sponsored Mercedes-AMG GT3. Currently looking back at the number 70 McLaren. Excuse me, so kind of now looking at the 747 Mercedes of Emil Sjöblom. Got Magnus Dahlgren behind in the Battle of Sweden. Currently for 25th place overall at the moment.
Battle of Sweden. Oh, I'm not good with names or nationalities whatsoever, so I don't even pick up on that.
I noticed that there was a Swedish flag next to Dahlgren earlier, and I know that Emil's also from Sweden. Yet you just see they're looking at Dahlgren, definitely the Swedish flag next to his name, currently 26th place overall at the moment. They've got Debug behind them as the number 70 McLaren of Brook has come into the pits from 29th place. And currently the other Sjöblom in the field is the number 555 in 31st place at the moment.
It's a bit weird seeing Emil down in 25th, but there's still plenty of cars up front that still have to make both their pit stops. So we'll see what happens with those guys if they choose to do it or not. But we're seeing Dahlgren get right up the trough of of Roblom, sorry, trying to get right up behind him, showing him in his side mirrors that he is there and that he is willing to make the move when and where ever the move or opportunity comes from. But yeah, Roblom doing an absolutely fantastic job, taking a lot of curb on the inside there. Having to be very careful with track limits, remember, and taking a lot there as well. Trying to stay ahead of Dahlgren, but Dahlgren's still to make his other pit stop in the pit window, but I wonder if he'll argue that he's already had a pit stop earlier on in the race. Looking further ahead, we've got Kai Banks still battling it out. He's got a BMW right behind him. It looks like a lap down BMW, but yeah, still a battle nonetheless between these two, as that BMW tries to undo itself. That could be Tabovsek. It looks like it is Tabovsek, the number 9 BMW, trying to get past Kai Banks. So yeah, I guess we'll see how it goes. Currently looking around, seeing what other battles we have going out on track. We've got Billy Hutchison still out there fighting it out, letting a faster car through. But he has to be careful because he's got Emil right up behind him now as well, with Dahlgren following suit. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I'll be curious to see if Dahlgren jumps into the pits either this lap or the next lap to get within the pit window. But yeah, it's all kinds of manner. Yeah, there we have Dahlgren into the pits, and that's now Zuerblom able to focus all his attention on Billy, trying to get past him as they head on down now towards T1 at Variant Del Parco. We'll see how it goes for that. But yeah, Rob taking a quick break, trying to sort something at home in real life. But yeah, we're still watching this battle ongoing between Billy. We've got the Aston versus the Mercedes, which, I mean, yeah, it's basically two Mercedes powered vehicles going at it. You can see Zuerblom going to the outside for turn 8, going around the outside, tries to stick it, gets alongside, a little bit of rubbing. Going around there, you can see Zuerblom taking a very wide line to tuck back in behind Billy. But of course, that gives him the run again to try and get the move done and get a good line going around turn 10 now at Tremonto, so he can keep on going and get the suck and have a good time. But yeah, I guess we'll see how it goes for these two. But yeah, that 747 just being relentless in its chase of that number 88 Aston. You can see it going all the way around, looking to the inside, looking to the outside, tucking back in again, showing him all kinds of front angles of that Mercedes, trying to get into Billy's head. But Billy seems to be having none of it, and is putting the car in all the right places to defend. We'll see how it goes for Billy in the future. But we still have the battle between Tiro Nayonen, who's currently going around now with Nicholas Kraus right behind him with a 911 Porsche. That white and gold Porsche is sneaking up right behind that big lumbering Nissan GTR, doing very well to stay ahead of him, especially through the first sector as we discussed earlier. It's very technical and beautiful. It's just a wonderful playground for that rear-engined Porsche with the flat 6 naturally aspirated engine. As they go through now, through turn 11, flat out through turn 12, heavy braking down 2 gears through turn 13, and then a little bit of gas, blasting it down, and then a heavy braking zone through that hairpin at Caro. But yeah, Nayonen doing a very good job through sector 1 to try and keep that Porsche behind, running over the sleeping policeman, giving himself a slightly compromised line, letting Nicholas getting right up behind him. You can see Nicholas gives him a little kiss on the arse there as they head on now towards the pit straight. But yeah, it's properly close between these two.
Yeah, and all the while, this is allowing Mad Al to pull away from them in the NSX.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, Mad Al is just thanking everyone for this, for Tiro holding up Nicholas right now. You can see Nicholas going very wide there and staying off track. I think that's a little known secret, is if you go off track, stay off track for a little bit, keep the power on, and then cut back onto the track and don't get a track warning for it. It's a bit dirty, but if you know it, it works.
Just a slight bug in the code of the game on Kunos's part, but it's all legit here. And Eddie Warden currently in 12th place. He's got Copser behind him, Crawford Brown just behind them, and James Lacey as well. So they've got some very, very quick drivers behind them, with the pit window ended and just under 32 minutes to go.
Yeah, pit window's ended, so I think that's everyone performed for pits within the pit window. We've got Alex Veach, who's currently in the pits for number 29 in P29. Funny enough, we were speaking about that last week, weren't we, about your car number being the same as your position, so hopefully you can keep that position, but it looks like it's just dropped down with Chris Brook taking that position of the number 70 car while Veach is in the pits.
Oh, it would be nice. Well, we can dream.
We can dream, and we do dream. So come on, come on, Veach, get that position back off Brook, and Brook, hope you give him the battle that he wants, and that we want as well, when he inevitably comes back to try and get that position back. We've got a drive-through for James Lacey, which, that's unfortunate for him, but yeah, as we said earlier, if it's going to be any track, it's going to be here.
It's going to be here, or it's going to be Imola. Because Imola's quite similar with the way that in order to actually get anything which vaguely resembles a good lap, you have to absolutely yeet it so hard over the curbs that you're going to be bordering on getting a track limits penalty as well.
Looks like Eddie Warden's managed to get past Dominic while we went off and tried to see the overtake Crawford Brown did on Copset. But you can see Eddie going very wide there, but still maintains the inside line, forcing Dominic's go around the outside, going side by side into the final corner at Misano. But yeah, it looks like Eddie giving him all the space that he needs to for Dominic to slot back behind him. Very respectful so far. I've not seen anything dirty, which is brilliant to see, and of course standard when you race with RWB.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely standard here. The driving standards are absolutely impeccable.
You don't have to sound sarcastic.
And I'm not, though. They genuinely are. Compared to a lot of other races I've watched over the years as well. So it's compliments to everyone and kudos to them, and also kudos to our fantastic stewards, without whom we wouldn't actually be having a race to commentate on at the moment, for upholding it. So yeah.
Oh, 100%. Especially with the sponsors as well, keeping everything afloat, the lights on, the servers running.
Oh, absolutely. Our racing sim tools as well. I wouldn't be surprised if quite a few of the drivers were using some of the setups which racing sim tools have managed to concoct over the years in order to help give normal, I reckon if I put a racing sim tools setup on my car, I could probably take about a second a lap off anywhere.
Oh, aye. Setup's everything on this. Like, half of it's driver skill, half of it's setup. But yeah, it's really good to have those tools and those setups available while you're racing with your very lovely sim socks, so your pedals won't slip off. Your feet don't slip off the pedals. So absolutely fantastic to have all of these guys on board.
I mean, it is a little bit of an issue. I mean, for example, when I don't have my trainers on when I'm racing, so I've got some old knackered Vans high tops I sometimes wear when I'm on the PlayStation on my Logitech wheel, because it's not like my computer can actually run anything more recent than Race 07 or GTR 2. But if I don't have any trainers on, I find that I can actually sort of slip off the pedal a little bit. It's a lot harder when I'm wearing trainers, and I think SimSock would does provide that ideal balance between having the grip to actually stay on the pedals and also the ability to actually help also put good pressure through the pedals, especially if you're using a load cell and you can actually really need to put that force in, as Crawford Brown is definitely doing that right now. He's got past the Aston Martin ahead of him for 12th place on the road overall. Coming towards the final couple of corners, coming up to the Curva Misano now, which I believe is the corner where Wayne Rainey, the legendary 3-time Grand Prix motorcycle racing champion, had that absolutely horrific accident in 1993 that ended his career.
Yeah.
Back when the circuit here at Misano was still anti-clockwise, it was a much faster corner back in those days, and it also led to the circuit actually being taken off the Grand Prix calendar full stop as well. As we see James Lacey in the pits, maybe to, and in fact I say maybe, I think he actually is in the pits to take his drive-through penalty. He's currently 18th place at the moment. He's currently got, there's Kai Banks in the Mercedes. He's got BMW behind him, which I think is most likely a lap down, and somewhere near Banks I think should be, or at least a little bit up the road, should be James Lacey's Porsche, as Banks goes very wide and does actually hit the sleeping policeman there. But thankfully the Mercedes is in real life actually quite a compliant car. I remember reading an interview with Ben Keating, who races this car out in, or used to race this car out in America in the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. He said that the Mercedes, was like the old Riley Viper in a way. It was a very forgiving car, in that the car would tell you that, okay, yeah, you're being a bit of a you know what, let you know that there was a bit of understeer coming before the back end started to come round. So that's why the Mercedes, I think, has been quite popular amongst the non-professional drivers. We see Mad Al here, currently 15th place. He's got Max Kreuss in one of the Porsches right behind him, and Kreuss goes up the inside there into turn 4, makes it stick, runs a little bit wide though, and Mad Al manages to get the undercut on him and reclaim 15th place overall, coming onto the back straight now. And Kreuss trying to get in the slipstream of the Honda NSX. Unfortunately for Kreuss, the Honda is quite a svelte car, to put it mildly, although he does get a good exit coming out of the following corner and manages to get his nose ahead. Mad Al on the inside line here, and Mad Al back in front of Kreuss. It's an absolutely fantastic battle for 15th place. The number 79 Aston Martin has received a drive-through penalty. I can see Kreuss is right in the slipstream of the Honda there as they come down the back straight into here. Kreuss still 16th place. Is he going to try and have a run on the exit? The Aston Martin, actually, with the drive-through, has pitted. So that's going to be another position, I think, for both Mad Al and Niklas Kreuss. Come out of the Curva Misano now onto the pit straight.
Yeah, that flat six doing absolute wonders to try and keep up with the VTEC within that Honda. But yeah, I'm just waiting for VTEC to kick in and for that Honda to just pull away on the straights. But yeah, through sector 1, as we were saying, Elliot, it's doing. You can see Cross getting right up behind Mad Al, just doing anything he can to stick with it. Before the straights where Mad Al slightly starts to walk away. But yeah, that's now them looking for Cross looking for P14 and Mad Al hoping to stay away from P15 as long as he can. But yeah, fantastic driving for both of them, especially going side by side and keeping it respectful and keeping it clean.
Kreuss goes a little bit wide there And I think that will be flagged up. Xavier Eugeni's currently in the pits at the moment. He's in 24th place at the moment. He's got Debug behind him. In fact, Debug's actually just gone ahead of him. So we'll keep an eye on that. Currently on board with Mad out in the Honda NSX. And he is still fending off Croyce on part of the circuit. Arguably, you could say favours the Honda. It's not the best car for Croyce to be behind. It's quite a svelte car, the Honda NSX. Also in real life as well, having seen one in London before. Croyce goes a good run there. Currently looking at Damien Wilk in the Lamborghini. And speaking of Lamborghini, the 52 Lamborghini of, I believe that's Gartner, has got a drive-through penalty and has come into the pits to serve that. So that means he could lose 1 or 2 positions, given that it's a little bit more spread out towards the back of the field right now, coming into the curve of Misano. Currently looking at the 4th place McLaren of Kreuger coming through there. He's got Copser right with him as well. This is a battle here for 4th place overall.
Oh, getting right up to the back of him. Bit surprising with the McLaren having absolutely superb brakes, but of course the Lexus then has the grunt and the straight line speed to get past McLaren. So it's kind of a bit of a battle of ice and fire between these two. They're both great in opposing areas, so expect to see the McLaren pull away in the braking zones, but then for the Lexus to catch right back up again in that straight for Sector 2.
Yeah, the McLaren is being mid-engined. It's a very nimble car, and actually the road-going 720S is much more of a pure thoroughbred sports car than, with all due respect, than what the Lexus is. So it does make you wonder, once the RCF comes to the end of its usable lifespan as a GT3 car, could we potentially just maybe see the Supra as a GT3 car? One can hope.
What one can hope. I've heard rumours and rumblings, but yeah, for now it's just the GT4 Supra. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But yeah, lots of manufacturers. Yeah, you hear a lot of things working around a motorsport company, and yeah, there's a lot of manufacturers with GT3 concepts that want to do something, and they're keeping it very under wraps. But yeah, until you actually see something in the flesh, unfortunately, it's just rumours, and that's all you can have.
Well, we say there's only a Supra GT4. There is also the Supra GT500 that races in Super GT, although realistically, that's not actually a Supra. It's more a kind of a prototype sports car that looks a bit like a Supra. It just so happens to be front-engined, for good measure.
Currently looking at a battle between Crawford Brown and Eddie Warden. Like I said earlier, these two are in their own Discord channel, so they'll be howling at each other. But yeah, both looking very racy, looking like they're not going to be best of friends by the end of this, because yeah, I foresee an incident coming, knowing these two. But we'll see how it plays out.
You say that. What were we saying about Crawford at the previous round at Suzuka again?
Oh yeah, well, me and, funny enough, yeah, us and Eddie were calling him Botlet Brown, so hopefully he doesn't bottle it, and he can keep it going. But yeah, Eddie's going to be egging him on, trying to get him to bottle it.
All part of the banter. Here in the final round of the RWB ACC Constructors Championship here at Misano, currently on board with Copser, car number 999, and now back on board with Crawford Brown from the front bumper of the NSX, getting a nice, good old look at the almost antiquated aerodynamics of the BMW M6 GT3. And well, if the M4 was anything like what the M8 GTE was aerodynamically in terms of the way the rear diffuser was, then yeah, they could well have pulled a little bit of a masterstroke here. BMW could.
Yeah, one can only hope. The BMW needs some love. I love it to bits, but it drives like a pig sometimes. You don't have the correct setup. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, whenever I drive it on this game, I always just think of it like that DTM car that they released on R Factor 2. Just keep picturing M4 DTM car, M4 DTM car. But yeah, that thing is absolutely mad. If no one's tried it on R Factor, definitely give it a go because it is an absolute animal. Absolutely hilarious to drive.
It was. As Brown goes up the inside of Ward, and Ward makes a little bit of a mistake there, and Crawford Brown does not go for hashtag bottle it Brown. He says instead, tar very much, I'm having 11th place.
Yeah, but it looks like Eddie's going to come back at him as well around the outside.
Around the outside. It's almost as if they know that the camera's focused the helicam is currently focusing on their battle at the moment.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if one of the other guys in that Discord were telling them what's going on, give us a show. But these two, I think, have had enough TV time as we look at Jakub Tarantino fighting with Marco Badowski. Nate Newcomer. Wait, that is Jakub Tarantino fighting Nate Newcomer.
For 9th place, back end of the top 10, which, given the size of the grid here, and on a circuit as short as Misano, is still a very good result nonetheless. And yeah, going back to the point about the old DTM cars, I remember before they put the 2-litre turbo engines in, they brought an Audi, a BMW, and a Mercedes to twin room Motegi for the final Super GT round, and the DTM cars at the time were about 8 seconds a lap slower around Motegi.
They're absolutely mental now, though.
It's
just incredible.
The tyre war in Super GT is I mentioned it, I think, a couple of weeks ago, but to a lot of the top European guys who've tested Super GT spec cars, like, for example, Nicky Team, Chris Meese, the whole tyre thing has come as an absolutely massive shock to them as one of the Mercedes deliberately runs wide to get out of the way of this battle for 7th place here. And it is a genuine shock to a lot of the European guys who race in Europe. But I think likewise, it's also a bit of a shock to when, for example, Good Smile Racing with Kataoka Taniguchi and Kamui Kobayashi came to Belgium for the Spa 24 hours, going from having these fantastically grippy Super GT spec tyres to the almost rock hard gripless Pirellis in comparison, relatively speaking, compared to what they were used to. But it was why during when they had the joint Super GT DTM race at Fuji, they actually a few of the Super GT drivers actually had some unmarked tyres for their pre-season test at Fuji. And those were actually the DTM spec Hankooks to actually see if they could cope with being hauled at north of 300 kilometers an hour down the pitch straight at Fuji, and then hard on the brakes for the hairpin at turn 1.
It is absolutely mental, but I mean, when anyone's improving their car, even if it's like a home project or a track day thing, you have to spend as much money as you can on tyres, because they're your point of contact with the road, and they just change the car night and day. I remember going from some off-brand, very cheap tyres to Michelin's that I've got now, and it's literally night and day. It feels like a completely different car. So yeah, like, always improve before you go to the engine or even touch the engine or coilovers. It should be tyres and brakes. Those are your first two things that you need to change on your car, because honestly, it just changes everything about a car and changes how it feels.
And also taking as much weight as you can out of it as well, realistically. So even if it's just like shut the spare wheel out, shut the toolkit out, put a lightweight battery in, take the rear seats out, because let's face it, you're driving on a race circuit, you don't need the kids in the back of the car.
Yep.
No, chuck all the CDs and stuff and empty cans of drink into the bin. Yeah, you don't need that. As we come to see Kruger as Cops are for company there, and Cops has a little look up the inside. Kruger says, "No, you're not having 4th place, mate." And he defends the position there, coming up into the hairpin leading onto the back straight. And Kruger is still ahead. We're coming up to the part of the circuit where you'd imagine the torquier Lexus would have the advantage, one would think, but if I remember correctly, in the 2020 BOP, the McLaren is rather quick all round.
Yeah, between those two, Simon Kruger's managed to hold a position, but we're now back following with Don Jordan with the Nissan, the number 45, Marko Badowski right behind for company, keeping it nice and clean. You can see Don Jordan running a little bit wide there as they go through the hairpin at turn 14 at Carrow, but yeah, he's still got that Mercedes, which is on a different lap to them. It's a lap down right behind, but it's still keeping them for company, just following them, maybe trying to learn the lines of it for next time. There's a race at Misano, but yeah, it's just keeping them company and plodding along with them.
And if you're like a lap or two down, even if you're thinking, okay, well, there's no chance I can score points, no chance I can get a podium win, whatever. If you stop behind someone who's a good second plus lap faster than you are, you can still learn so much just from looking at where the braking points are, where the turning points are, and all that. So it can still be, like you said, an incredibly valuable learning tool for some of the merely fast drivers taking part in this race.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I fully agree. It's experience is massive for doing this, and it is sometimes just worth following a faster guy or the guys on the lap ahead just to see. And to be honest, like, if he tries to make a move on them or get past them, he endangers himself, and then he risks getting knocked down down the order. And these guys might even be dragging him towards his competitor further up the road. So yeah, it's definitely worth just sitting behind them and seeing where it goes.
It's all parts of the fun and games here. Currently looking at Jacob Tarantino, car number 16 Lamborghini Huracan in the gold livery, which has been introduced, I believe, because it's the final round this weekend. He's got Nate Newcomer and Crawford Brown right behind him. It's a very close battle here. Crawford desperately wants the top 10. He has a little look up the inside of Nate Newcomer. Nate's got the inside for the next corner, but I think Crawford has done enough. Yes, he has. As they come into the curve of Misano now, Crawford Brown has moved up into the top 10 in the number 3 Honda NSX. Nate Newcomer back down to 11th in the Lexus. Still, Jacob Tarantino in the number 16 Lamborghini in 9th place overall. Both mid-engine cars, these very similar in terms of layout, very similar, I think, roughly in terms of their relative performance as well. So, bit of flame coming out the back of the Lamborghini there on the downshift, as they both aim to get as best exit they can. Oh, I don't know if it's the camera angle there, but I think Brown may have run a little bit closer to the circuit than Tarantino may have run slightly wider. Tarantino takes the inside for the corner. Brown has a little think about around the outside, and that in turn brings Newcomer back into it for 10th place as they come up now to the next hairpin here at Misano. Coming out of the corner now onto the back straight. Now, will the grunt of the Lexus be able to help Nate Newcomer get past Crawford Brown? I don't think so. They're coming down the back straight, which isn't really technically a straight there. And Crawford Brown defends from Nate Newcomer, and this is a pretty awkward, slightly awkward situation actually for Crawford Brown, because he wants to be attacking Jacob Tarantino for 9th, but at the same time he knows that if he makes one slight mistake, then he's got Nate Newcomer in the big Lexus filling his rearview mirror. So this is quite an interesting time. He gets a little bit closer there towards Tarantino now. Has to back off slightly because Tarantino's on the racing line, as he is well entitled to. Brings Nate Newcomer back into it slightly. Has a little look up the inside. Decides against it. He's got to get a good run out of the corner here. Tarantino has the edge coming onto the straight, and looking back from Tarantino's Lamborghini, Crawford Brown is still there. Nate Newcomer is right in the slipstream for good measure. Crawford Brown has a send up the inside there, and they're side by side through the corner. Has he done enough? He's just about got his nose in front, but Tarantino has the inside for the next corner. This brings Nate Newcomer back into it. He very nearly has a look up the inside, and currently looking at this battle for 9th place, and now they all tuck in behind each other, line astern, very much so, through completely differing lines through the kink there. As Crawford Brown, does he have a little look at the inside? He hits Tarantino, and that has ruined Jacob Tarantino's race. He has pretty much stopped to redress the position. He's coming off the circuit at the moment. I wonder if this could well be a penalty potentially from the stewards for Crawford Brown. Nate, he's currently showing as being down in 12th place. He has 13th now because Copster has just got past him in the Lexus.
That's 2 free positions for Nate Newcomer by just being patient and letting Crawford and Tarantino battle it out and say, well, yeah, let that incident play out.
So Eddie Warden's also in the top 10 as well now in the BMW M6.
Yeah, so nice free positions for those two. Unfortunate for Tarantino, who's unfortunately lucked out having Crawford behind him, and Crawford not anticipating. There we go, 3rd time's a charm. Anticipating the change in pace there, and unfortunately it's made that contact, sending Tarantino off into the gravel. But it is nice to see Crawford waiting up to let Tarantino back in front. But yeah, unfortunately that's 2 positions lost of Tarantino and 4 for Crawford Brown.
Yeah, and currently he's got next car behind him is, well, next cars behind him are actually the Porsche duo of James Lacey and Nicholas Kreuss as well. We're looking at Kreuss here, both the Porsches working in tandem to try and actually move back up through the field using their rear engine traction to very good advantage here, although Mad Al is still hanging on very gamely as well in the NSX to the back of Kreuss's Porsche, currently on board with Mad Al at the moment in the NSX. Go through the kink, was just under 5 minutes to go now as well. God, where's the time gone in this?
It really has flown by 100.
Yeah, and Mad Al goes past Kreuss for good measure. So Mad Al has moved up into 15th place. Kreuss is back down to 16th. He's got James Lacey ahead of him. And then a few seconds, I think, up the road from them, actually quite a few seconds, actually, I think, looking at the track map. And the dancing ants scream is Crawford Brown. And yes, that is actually a technical term in industry. Dancing ants.
Looking back now at Dominic Mezejewski, he's got Simon Tribec right up his chuff in that British liveried Bentley, staying true to nature with the Bentleys. But yeah, Dominic, it's the battle of the Britain right now between Aston and Bentley. If only there was a Mercedes and a BMW thrown in as well, then it would be Hurricane Spitfires versus Messerschmitts and Stuckers. But yeah, unfortunately right now it is Aston v Bentley, and currently, yeah, Simon Tribec staying right up behind Dominic, trying to get the slipstream. But yeah, it's Mercedes power versus good old-fashioned, well, actually the Bentley's Mercedes powered, BMW powered, sorry. So yeah, it's BMW versus Mercedes right now.
And also throw in the old McLaren as well, and then throw in, say, an Audi, and then you've got an Avro Lancaster and a Fokker thrown in for good measure. And you've got to be quite careful with how you say that. last brand for obvious reasons. Although actually the BMW logo, interestingly enough, is inspired by a plane propeller. As there's the battle here, and I think Trebek's actually got the position in the Bentley. And yes, indeed, he has. Simon Trebek now up to 19th place overall in the Bentley Continental GT3, built and developed up in Cumbria in the north of England by M Sport, the famous rally team, branching out into circuits racing with the Bentley, and with quite some aplomb, you must say. There's Samuel Kreuger on board with Sam Kreuger right now, currently still in 4th place. He's got Kai Banks a little way up the road. We've got a back marker in front of them. I think that might actually be Trebek.
It is, yeah.
Yes, they got Simon Trebek in front of them, and I think once Kruger gets up to the back of Trebek's car, he'll presumably be told he's got the driver 4th place overall behind him, and lift off slightly, let him by, and that's exactly what he does. He keeps to the inside, gives Kruger the racing line. Very heads-up driving there from Simon Trebek as they come round on what I think might be the penultimate lap. I'm having a little look at the dancing ant screen to try and work out roughly where Radek Schiller is in the lead. I'd imagine the next lap would be the final lap, as there's just under a minute to go now. So
yeah, that should have just started his final lap now.
Yep, lap 52 here at Misano.
We've got a yellow flag on the back straight between turn 6 and turn 8. Looks like for number 28, number 29. Unfortunately, my eyes aren't that good, as much as I may tell myself they are, but yeah, it's going well for those guys. Radek Schiller has also posted the fastest time of a 1:34 dead a moment ago, so he's absolutely flying with no pace dropping. So yeah, he's really sticking true to form and really cementing his place as the drivers' champion. But yeah, we'll find out those standings later on.
Absolutely, well deserved. You have to say, from what I've seen so far during the second half of the season, it's been Radek Schiller, Radek Schiller, Radek Schiller. It's almost been the Radek Schiller show, effectively, to say the least. He's been clear of everyone. You've got battle here for 11th and 12th. Cops has just lost out to 12th to Tarantino, and Crawford Brown has been given a drive-through penalty, presumably for the contact on Tarantino. And with the clock having ticked down to 0, I don't think he's actually going to be able, or nearly 0, I don't think he's going to be able to serve the penalty. Oh no, he has come into the pits. He has decided to surrender 13th place to James Lacey and Mad Al Nicholas Kreuss, as Radek Schiller has crossed the line to take yet another win, another well-deserved win, and it was a bit of a Ferrari on Honda coming together in the pit lane there. It's currently looking at Emo Plate, 6th place in the McLaren. You've got Martin Chaffer's just crossed the line in 2nd. Banks 3rd for Mercedes-Benz. You've got Kreuger and Kops. So I'd imagine we're just about to cross the line. Yes, Kreuger's crossed the line. Kops has crossed the line. Emo Plate, a fine 6th in the 2nd of the McLarens. Got Crawford Brown's actually, I think, not got a drive-through penalty. I think he may have been adjudged to have been given a 30-second penalty on top of that. Badowski's crossed the line anyway. We've got Jordan crossing the line in 8th place. Then currently looking at Eddie Warden now at the round out the top 10 in the BMW M6 GT3. Nate Newcomer just in front of him to take a hard-earned 9th place. And Warden, there you go, crosses the line to take 10th and to round out the top 10 as the highest placed BMW driver.
Oof, what an ending to this whole saga it has been.
Yes, it has been quite the race to end the season, and Yes, Crawford Brown is actually showing as being in 18th place there. I think once the time penalty has been automatic, because I think the time penalty has automatically been added on to his race time. So yes, I think that has actually dropped him down from 13th to 18th place.
Oofed. What a race that was. Well, I think that pit window kind of threw everything into disarray with people kind of diving into the pits all around. But yeah, that's the season over. What did you think? What did you think of it? What's your take on the way?
Can we do it all over again, please? Pretty please. No, it's been absolutely phenomenal. I mean, granted, I've only been commentating for half the season, and even then, that was looking fairly doubtful at about 7 o'clock this morning. the joys of being a student with a deadline in a week's time, and a paper that needs writing. But no, from what I've seen, this season has been absolutely nothing short of fantastic to watch. Absolutely brilliant, and everyone has been an absolute credit to their respective manufacturers and to RWB as organisers, and also massive thanks to you, Chief, for leading the charge on comms as well.
It's been surreal. Absolutely joy to have you on board, Rob, for this, and
thanks.
I definitely can't wait to see you later on. Hopefully, with you doing the endurance race comms in the future. But yeah, it's been absolutely phenomenal. For those of you who aren't over with your racing fix from RWB, we still have the GT 2021 season, second season going on Saturdays. So next race is Hungaroring. But in the future, I'm pretty sure Damien's still cooking up some more Tuesday Constructors Championship fun with a little bit of another twist. I mean, Damien can't get over his twist, so there's plenty more action out there next season. But until then, we also have the 8-hour Sebring Endurance in 2.5 weeks. We then have the 12-hour Bathurst charity race as well coming up. Oof, when is that? That's over in 20th of November. Yeah. End of November, and then it's the Kyalami 9 hours as well on the 11th of December. But yeah, for those of you who are interested in joining, head over to RWB Discord or the website as well. You can see all the events listed there. But yeah, until then, I'm Josh, and that's been Rob.
Yep.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks.